Hello, I'm Sarah Lister from Sheffield Digital, and today I'm talking to Tom Hoyland, who is Senior Agile and DevOps Delivery Lead at Sky Betting and Gaming. So, Tom, how can you best describe what Agile means in the context of your work at Sky Betting and Gaming?
Well, that's a good question. So, for me, Agile is all about sustainably reducing the lead time to business impact. And in the context of Sky Betting and Gaming, that is working with teams, training teams, facilitating teams, coaching them and leading them to improve performance, work in a sustainable way, and shrink that lead time to positive business impact.
What's your personal approach to Agile coaching, and how have you learned those skills?
I think my personal approach to Agile coaching is one of being two things. Data-driven, so focus on the data, focus on the evidence and the things that you can see, the things you can observe, and reduce as much inference as possible. And then using that, work with people to find new ways to deliver products, to turn concepts into reality, because without people, all of those ideas for improvements, they don't do anything. People make change happen.
How have you learned those skills?
Well, it really comes from experience and a wide range of experience working with a lot of different teams in a lot of different sectors, working with user research heavy teams that are about transactions, high performing compute platforms, and bringing all of those skills to the table and working with teams in different ways. Every team works in a different way. Every team works within a different domain and a different context. And you have to be able to adapt your skills and draw on a lot of different experiences. In some cases, you are talking to a boardroom, and then in some cases, you're working with a team. You're actually working in the work. So being able to translate those different backgrounds and having that experience adds a lot to be able to understand not just how the work is worked and the physics of that work, but then also the empathy of working with those teams too.
Why do you think it's important to build an Agile team, and what has been key in your process?
So for me, the goal is not to be an Agile team. The goal is not to be a DevOps team. Agile and DevOps get you to the goal. And the goal is to have that business impact, that positive business outcome, moving a dial or having a positive impact somewhere. And for me, it's very much about finding a sustainable way of working, looking at the context that you're working in, understanding where that team is on its journey towards that Agile place, that DevOps place, and finding the methods that work right for them. It's about tuning, and it's about listening to people and getting feedback. A lot of what Agile is about, I've mentioned evidence earlier, a lot of what Agile is about listening to the team, learning from that evidence and using it to guide you on your journey.
How does DevOps fit into your role?
Well, DevOps is a bit like Agile. It's a bit of an umbrella term, but it means a lot of different things. But for me, DevOps is taking a product view of the platforms that we create, the products that are already out there. It's not just enough to build a product, but you've got to be able to run it. You've got to be able to optimize it for it to be able to maintain its value. And DevOps is really about taking some of those product and Agile product development practices and extending them into the operations of those existing products. It's about promoting a high-performing culture, automating wherever possible, that lean systems thinking to reduce the amount of time it takes to make improvements. And it's about metrics, understanding how your systems and your platforms are running, but it's also about sharing and collaborating with all the different teams that come together to build a platform and run it throughout its lifetime.
What's it like working for Sky Betting and Gaming?
Oh, it's fast-paced. It's great working for Sky Betting and Gaming. You get to work with some really exceptional people from lots of different disciplines, lots of different areas. The culture is really great. Everybody is really focused on asking the right questions, learning, and working out what we can do to improve. And it's a really great place to work.
Is there support with career development within the company?
Absolutely. Everybody has a learning and development fund, and a portion of everybody's time gets directed towards personal improvement and learning and development. So everybody gets a bit of time every week or every fortnight to be able to focus on their own projects, to be able to grow and develop. We're encouraged to work with teams from all over the business to bring lots of ideas together to focus on innovation. And we're also looking to bring the next generation of software engineers, product people, architects, and Agile folks to work with us.
And can you share what's been your path into your senior role?
I think my path into the role that I am in now comes from just working with lots of different teams. So I was really fortunate throughout my career. I've had some really great mentors. And in the time that I've been working in tech, it's really about the network and the community that you build, and hopping from one community to another. So for me, I started in software engineering. I went into business analysis, project and program management, and then into digital and coaching and building teams. And the thing that I really found that I enjoyed doing was building the teams. It's not just building the product for me, it's about building the team that builds the product. So I found out a couple of years ago what I really enjoyed doing, and that became my passion. That became the thing that I focused on. And I just kind of really went deep with it and started working with different teams, started joining meetups, attending conferences, and just getting to know people and building knowledge, building experience, but then also building relationships with people.
Yeah, and have you found that it's helped with your confidence as well? I've sort of seen a couple of your YouTube videos where you've been presenting, and has this journey that you've been down helped you with your confidence along the way?
Definitely. I think to be confident, you have to know your subject matter, and you have to be able to talk about it. And to do that, you have to have lived it. And I think having worked in a lot of different contexts with a lot of different teams, it's given me quite a large repertoire that I can lean on. But then also, I know the areas that I don't know, those known unknowns, and the things that I really want to keep developing on. So there's always more to learn.
Are you able to share what you're kind of developing and working on at the minute?
Oh, at the moment, I've got a couple of talks in the work, maybe around DevOps and maybe around theory of constraints and complexity, and hoping to get back on the podcast later this year.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about your podcast as well. What's been your experience of hosting the podcast, and are you getting what you want out of it?
The podcast has been brilliant. I think when people started to go into lockdown, myself and a friend, we decided to start a podcast, as I think hundreds of thousands of other people decided to do at the time. And we were bowled over by the number of people that were ready to come forward and to talk about their Agile journey, not just Agile on the surface, but really, really difficult challenges that people have had to face in lots of different contexts. And we've had some fantastic guests on, and it's not just a one-way system. You learn so much by talking to different people, and you see what's possible in different contexts. I'm still learning, and we get some great guests on.
Yeah, hopefully people within our community have been listening to it, because I know you've already shared a lot of episodes, and we'll put a link in the notes as well, just so that people can go and check it out if they haven't already. And which parts of your career path have been the most valuable to you so far?
I think in everybody's career, there's always one of those turning points. I think one of my key turning points in my career was when an IT director saw me, and they said, "We want you to lead a team. We want you to build a team, and we're going to fund you." And it was a huge responsibility. I couldn't take everybody with me to join that team, but the team that we built was absolutely fantastic. We built some great products. We learned so much together. But in that time, I kind of learned what I really enjoyed doing. And it's not just the product, it's the people. It's working with people that build that product. But it also helped me to understand what my leadership philosophy is, which is really important to me. And that's guided me ever since. Can
you share a bit about that leadership policy or your values?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had maybe about 10 years of tuning them and validating them. But for me, everything starts with transparency. Be transparent in everything that you do, the people that you work with, the work that you're working on, and how you're working, because you can only get better. It's then about collaboration. You can't do everything by yourself. You need a coalition of supportive people around you. You can go fast on your own, but you can go further together. And that is really evident, and that one really rings true for me. And finally, it's about that commitment too. You've got to be committed to the goal. If you're committed to the goal, people around you, the people that you're leading, the people that you're working with, they see that too. And that pulls them towards that vision. And for me, it's all about transparency, collaboration, and that commitment.
And some people who are watching this might be wondering about the sort of education side, the perhaps higher education. So do you think that your degree at Hallam has had a positive impact on your career?
Absolutely. I was really lucky to go to university, and I was really lucky to get onto the course that I was on. And that course led me into my first full tech employer, where I became a software engineer, and a lot more came from that. I was very lucky. Being able to get a what we called a sandwich year course, where I could pop out for a year and work with a local employer. But that was really the making of me. It showed me what technology was like in the real world. It gave me an opportunity to learn, to work with some really, really fantastic people who actually I still work with to this day in a different organization. But it was really, really great. It gave me a lot of the skills that I needed. So in my degree, I was looking at software engineering, business analysis, and project management. And lo and behold, I seem to have followed a career where I've done software engineering, business analysis, and then project management.
That's a great story to share then. And for people who are thinking about pursuing a similar role, can you please offer your advice that might help in terms of sort of the first few steps, maybe in resources, training, or gaining experience beyond doing a degree, perhaps?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways to get into tech, and there's lots of different ways to move into the agile coaching arena that I work in. You don't have to come from a technology background. You don't have to have a degree. What really matters, and what I found is really, really valuable, is being able to build relationships, being able to work with people, learn from a community around you, and contribute back to that community. You only get out what you put in, and the Sheffield tech scene has been really, really great for me. I've met a lot of people at different meetups. I've learned a lot from different meetups, and that's really helped me to develop my career. I would say, don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to talk to people, usually outside of the direct area that you're working in. Because it's that variety, that spectrum, that lends itself to being, I would say, a good Scrum Master, a good Agile delivery lead, a good Agile coach. It's that experience and that broad spectrum of diversity.
And are there any particular meetups that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I will naturally recommend Agile Sheffield. But I'll also recommend the Sheffield DevOps group. We've got some great stuff in Leeds as well. In fact, across Yorkshire, the meetup scene is incredibly diverse, and it's absolutely massive. There's so many good things going on, especially in the Agile and the DevOps space, whether you are all about product, whether it's about people, or whether it's about actual tools, technology, and the nuts and bolts. It's a very diverse community.
Have you got plans for Agile Sheffield meetups this year in 2022?
Not at the moment. I'm going to be putting a lot of my attention to the next talk and the keynotes that I've got coming up, and into the podcast this year.
Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful advice. Thank you very much for a great interview.
No worries. Thanks, Sarah.